All right, guys, we're going to do a quick unboxing here. So, packaging looks pretty good. So, you know, it's got a little bit of foam in here, which is always nice. All right, so the first thing I can say that this comes with the user manual, which actually seems to go in detail on a lot of the information in here. This is going to be nice when I actually go through and look at not just some of the setup here, which is probably not what I'm going to cover in the video, but it looks like it actually has notes on all of the wires, all of the connections. So we'll go through that together before we actually get it installed in the car. We have a little mini, let's say, FAQ, which once again, this is some really good paperwork in my opinion that some of the other radios that I've worked with don't necessarily have, or they have the data available, but it's just not, it doesn't come in the actual box. So that's always nice. Again, we'll go over this, you know, one step at a time through here so that we're fully prepared before we actually get this and put it in the car. Next up here is just our head unit. Now, once again, like most of these, the head unit is one solid piece. So this, I believe, is the either the 9 or 10-inch unit, but pretty nice head unit here. So if I can, let's see if I can get you guys closer. So it definitely has the kind of, let's say, form factor or physical buttons on here. Now, there's a couple things that I think I'm going to want to call out that should be considered going through this. Right off the bat, I'm looking at the front here, and there's a couple things I don't see. I don't see heated seats button here. Probably going to live within the head unit, which is fine. We have 2 temperatures here, which is probably because some of the Mustangs have dual zone. Mine does not. So I'm very curious how these are going to function. And then there's a couple other buttons on here that are physical buttons that have to do with the radio. So again, interesting implementation here. So there's a dial for the volume here. There's probably touch buttons here for volume. You know, like I said, interesting choices by the designers. You know, we'll see how I like it once it's installed in the car. But again, these are just some of the things I'm noticing as I unbox it. So we'll set that over here for now. And then in the box here, what we have, wow, that's a lot of wire harness. So this particular unit comes with a backup camera that you can use. I'm going to have to open this up and see what some of these wires are, what some of these plugs are for. It also looks like it's not just for parking. It may also be for, a backup camera. It may also have to do with the backup sensors. So there's like an A, B, C, D here. You know, it says 2 to 4 sensors, 6 to 8 sensors. So again, I think that's probably some sort of universal harness. A lot of these look like they say out. They appear to be mostly out RCA jacks. And, you know, probably what this is the, you know, a pin that goes in the back of the unit going out. But again, we'll get into that in a bit. Last but not least here, we have our probably what is our main body harness. Now, again, compared to some of the other things I've seen, there's some differences here. Right off the bat, I can tell you this big gray guy is our main body harness plug. This smaller one is also a plug that goes in the back of the to the main harness, and then the last small gray one. So your 3 gray ones are going to be the ones that plug into your car and actually make them operate. Now, what I do find interesting is that there's 2 of these here. Now, I wonder if this one goes into what was the FDIM or the little screen on the top of the Mustang. We'll get into that later. And then last but not least, there is this box here, which, again, I'm not that familiar with, but, you know, it's something we'll figure out. We're going to dissect and go through all of these before we put it in the car. Oh, one last thing. Right off the bat, I can tell you that this black plug here probably has to do with the sync module. Why do I say that? Well, mainly because looking at the keyway inside of it, the keyway being, you know, how the plug actually fits in here. You can't really see it, but it looks to me like it's the latch plug that goes on the APIM, right? The accessory, APIM. It's the thing for the sink. I don't remember. Accessory something interface module. Okay, last but not least, what's finally in the box here is an obvious trim tool. I don't know how well this will work, you know, if you were going to pull out your actual trim, so we'll see. We'll keep it on hand. And then last, but probably most importantly, is this Phillips head screwdriver, which frankly, I find interesting because there's no Phillips head screwdriver screws that have to be removed in order to swap the head unit. It's 7mm bolts or 7mm screws. So that is the unboxing. So kind of short and sweet. Next, we'll get into actually figuring out what each part of this wiring harness is so that, again, we're fully prepared before we actually go and install this in the car. But ultimately, not a lot of pieces here, which is kind of nice. And, you know, as I said before, it does come with an instruction manual, so I'll have this up while I'm going through it. And, you know, hopefully that'll make life a lot easier for us as we put this in and install it in the car. All right, so as many of you know, I really like to go through the wires, all of the components, everything that I have before I actually start putting it in the car. Now, mind you, I am going to give you guys a heads up. I actually am recording this after having installed it in the car. I took it back out because I wanted to make sure that I understood everything, and then it's going to go back in again after. But I'm going to take you to... There's two basic things that the OseMall car stereo has that it comes with that are super helpful. One is this quick explanation of each one of the ports on the back, which we'll use later when we do the actual installation, but I'm going to keep it to the side here as we go through the wires. The second is they do give you this actual manual, and the manual, again, as it relates to the wires, does have a pretty decent explanation of what each of the wires are. So we're also going to use this as we go through the wires and explain what each one of them are. So I'm going to set that to the side, have my workspace here, and then we're going to start right into it. So the very first one we're going to go over here is the backup camera. So the radio comes with an aftermarket backup camera wire setup. So you have your standard camera for the back. You have your video port. You have your power port. And then here, again, is the wire that goes into the power port so that you can get power to your camera. This over here, you would connect into here. You'd take it all the way from the back of the car to the front. And then you have your trigger line in case you're using the trigger line here. Now, you don't have to use this trigger line sometimes. My car, if I set it up inside the settings, you can actually have it trigger off of, I believe, the CAN bus, which is a really cool feature. So you don't have to have the extra trigger wire set up, but they do provide all of this. Now, I'm going to set all of this to the side because I already have an aftermarket backup camera that uses the RCA plug. If you already have one, that's great for you. You are not going to need this. But for anyone who wants a backup camera, the cool thing about the OseMall radio is it does come with this already with the setup so that you can, you know, install it and be good to go. We're going to set this aside because I don't need this for my installation. The next plug I want to go over is actually a really easy one. This is for your AM/FM antenna. So this is going to plug directly into what you unplug from your radio. And this one right here is going to plug into the back of the OseMall unit. That's very straightforward. So we're going to set that. Let's do this. We'll put it right here because we're going to need that later. Here's another straightforward one for you guys. This is your, actually, I'm sorry, there's two all tangled up here. Let's set this one to the side. This one is as straightforward as it comes. This is your microphone. Now, the nice thing is they do give you a long enough wire to actually route this from behind the head unit all the way up to, let's say, your kind of overhead console up, you know, where the mirror is, kind of over here. And, you know, you can route it behind your gauge cluster, up your pillar, and over there. So, again, this is, you're going to want this if you want to use any functionality, especially, you know, hooking up your phone to be able to take phone calls. So, again, we're going to set this in the pile over here of wires that we need. Now, the next one on the list here, this is only used if your car came with the sync system. This plug right here goes into the back of your APIM. Okay, so on the back of your APIM, you have this plug that you're going to need to unlatch. That's going to go into here. And then this is going to be plugged into the back of your unit. That's going to allow you to leverage the APIM to give you audio signal to the car. And just because I want to double check this, I am going to pull the APIM power plug because I want to see exactly what is being used. Because the APIM has a lot more wires than just these, so I actually want to see exactly what wires are being called for in this unit. So there's two on the bottom. There's a black and white. I'm inclined to believe that that's probably our power and ground, but I don't want to take any guesses. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this black and this white is for your steering wheel switches. It's the steering wheel switches for the Bluetooth control going into the APIM, which makes sense, right? You want to be able to continue to control your head unit with those extra Bluetooth, you know, controls. That's where it's gonna pick up on those, and it's gonna reroute them to your head unit on here. Okay. The bottom ones over here, this is, let's see, 40, 44, 45. Okay, so the bottom ones down here all have to do with your audio jack. That is what I believe is the jack that's in your center console. So you're going to want to when you plug this in, you're going to basically be hijacking your steering wheel controls for Bluetooth and your audio jack that's in the center console. So this is how you're going to take the two of those and reroute them. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Again, only going to be functional if you have the premium card, because if you don't have the premium card, you're not even going to have the APIM. So you know, think of this as possibly optional if you have the base car. I have a premium, so I'm going to put it in my pile of wires that I need. All right, next up, if we look here, we have one port here that is for USB. That's a 6-pin port. That's this one. Super straightforward. It's going to give you USB. You know, you can put USB extenders on here, but this one is as straightforward as it comes. If you want to have a USB to be able to plug into, you're going to need this. Whether you're going to use it or not, I would actually install it and just set it up, because who wants to tear the radio back out, you know, once they decide that they actually want to use that. Next up is your GPS wire. So this one, again, straightforward. Here is your GPS. Over here is going to be a kind of coax that you're going to plug into the back and screw in and get that set up. You're going to need this if you want to use any of the you know, stock or I'll say OEM, but the OseMall navigation. If you want to have, you know, north, east, south, west showing up, you know, the direction you're headed, you need this GPS to be able to have that. Again, straightforward. I'm going to put this in the pile of what we need and set that to the side. Okay, next up we have two more things, actually three more wires here, and I'm going to talk about each one at a time. So the first wire here, this is on your 10-pin connector. There's only one 10-pin connector. There's two things here. This is your backup camera in. So if you're going to use a backup camera like I showed you before, or an aftermarket one, you need to plug this in. Also, this is one of these is your Bluetooth antenna, and one of these is your Wi-Fi antenna. So you definitely want to have these set up in and this set up and plugged in, even if you don't have a backup camera, because you're not going to be able to hook up your phone to the unit via Wi-Fi or via Bluetooth, or even to a any sort of tethering or any sort of access point without this. You need to have those antennas. So we're going to set this in the pile of wires we need. Now this one over here, I'll get into this in a second. Let's just set this to the side and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so you're going to have two separate wires that have 4-pin connectors. Okay, these two wires both have 4-pin connectors, but there's only one 4-pin on the back of our unit. Why is it important? It's important to understand because you have two options here. Well, for cars that have a base setup, or are non-premiums, you only have one option. You're going to use this. It's going to give you a second USB access point in the car. Okay, similar to the other one I shared before, but this is going to be your only option for the 4-pin connector. For those with the premium car, you have two options. You can go with the second USB extender with this, or there's this other option, which I actually like to use. This is going to plug into the back of the head unit, and this over here is going to plug into a wire in the back of the APIM, similar to your other APIM connector. But what this actually does is it hijacks the USB port that's in the center console. So when you open up the door and you have the USB port in there, this is the one that's going to plug in. However, you do not route this to the back of the center console. You actually route it to the back of the APIM, which is behind the glove box. The reason for that is because you're going to get the USB in the center console wire goes up to the back of the APIM. So instead of going into the center console, you go to the back of the APIM, you unplug it and plug it in here, and then that USB becomes functional. So again, you have two options here. I'm choosing to go with the APIM, so I'm going to put this, or the APIM, factory USB port in the center console. So I'm going to put this in my need pile, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in my do not need pile along with the camera. Okay, so next up on the list, we're going to go over what I like to call kind of the main harness here for the vehicle. Now, there is a lot going on here, but we're going to try to go through it step by step, okay? The first thing you need to know is that there's 4 gray connectors, okay? These are your main connectors for your actual radio. When I refer to them, I'm going to refer to them as C290, A, B, C, and D, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a little bit on the wiring diagrams for these so we know exactly which one we're looking at, which one we're referring to. So let's start with the big guy, which is C290D. Okay, this is going to contain basically all of your outputs for your speakers. Okay, there is a little bit of steering wheel switches that are contained in here as well, but as this is plugged in and it's starting to power your unit, this is going to contain everything related to your speakers. It's the speaker to your door, the speaker to the rear, the tweeters and all of that. So that's what this connector is for. Okay, the next connector I'm going to talk, that's C290D. The next one I'm going to go over here is the 8-pin one. So this is C290B. Now, all of this is going to be related to your subs, okay? Virtually everything that goes to your subs is coming from this one, and it has connections for both the with the navigation and without the navigation in here. So this is cross-compatible with both, both setups in the vehicle. Now, this red and blue, this red and white, what I want you guys to think about is the information is going out through this plug. It's going out through this plug. That means this, if you're going to want to get sub, music or multimedia to your subs, you're going to want to plug this into the multimedia plug, which we'll go over in a few minutes. The next plug on here, which is again a straightforward one, is our C290A. Now what you'll notice is C290A is almost empty. It's only got about 6 plugs all loaded on one side, and those 6 plugs are all related to the audio jack that comes into the vehicle. Okay, pins 6, 7, and 8 are related to cars without sync. Pins 14 is also related to the audio jack, but pins 15 and 16 on here are related to the medium speed CAN bus. So that's all of the stuff that's kind of going on here when it comes to your plug that you have here. Yep. Okay, I'm just double checking the layout, so that's correct. So those are the 3 primary ones that you're going to use, whether you have the base car or the premium car. Now, if you're moving from a car with the navigation, you're going to want to use this plug. This plug is the one that allows you to use the OEM backup camera in your car. Okay, but this is only if you have the OEM backup camera and the navigation system. What this will do is you plug this into the plug that is C290B, I believe. I'm sorry, C290C. That's this one I'm showing on the screen now. And what this is basically going to do is going to take your camera signal from your OEM camera. Then you're going to plug this into that plug I showed before, right, which is this one. And that's going to allow your OEM backup camera to work directly with the OseMall head unit. So I have an OEM camera though, so I'm not going to be using this. I'm going to put this in my not used pile, but for anyone with a nav, this is the one you're going to use. So what we have over here is purely related now to your air conditioning system. Okay, all of this is air conditioning related, HVAC. What I find interesting about this right here, this black and white plug, this will plug into the back of the head unit for the fan, because there's a fan to keep the actual head unit cool. You don't hear it, which is actually pretty sweet, but it is in the back there, so that's what this plug is. Now over here, this box is related to CAN bus. What I find interesting about the OseMall unit is they did not bake the actual CAN bus conversion information into the head unit itself. It comes in this extra box. Honestly, it's very straightforward. All you have is the 8-pin plug here, so you're going to plug this back into the back of the head unit. And then over here, you have a 20-pin connector, or maybe this is a little more than 20. Maybe 22-pin connector. Anyway, this is going to plug into the bottom of the head unit. That basically gives it the ability to go through the CAN bus converter and go into the system. So that explains your main body harness. Again, this is more critical than any harness that you have. So we're going to set that over here. And we're going to go into the last one, which is what I call the media plug, which is this one right over here. So this media plug is going to be the plug that controls and gives you, all of your inputs and outputs to your vehicle. Okay, so You have your mic input here, which is straightforward. This one is going to plug into the APIM. You have a line out for the sub. Okay. You have video out for the, in case you're doing like DVD screens or anything that you want to have out. You have your front right out, your front left out. All of these, again, are very straightforward. And, here we go. There it is. There's our explanation. So, you have your front left out, you have your subwoofer output, which is green, you have your video out, your microphone jack, your front right out, your CVBS in one, and then you have your aux left line in one and your aux right line in one. So that will cover basically everything. Oh yeah, and obviously the fan connector control. So all of this is to say, at this point, you have everything you need in order to plug in the head unit, and let's move on to that. All right, guys, now we're out here in the car, so we're going to do the install here. Remember, we went through a lot of all the different intricacies of all the different components, the wires and everything. Let's get right to it. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get the center console out so that we can get the stock radio out. There's two primary things you guys are going to need. You're going to need a pick tool, and you're going to need a 7mm socket to get the screws out. Now, I'll give you a heads up. I've already taken all of those screws out to do this installation video, but I'll point out where they are and how we address them. So the first thing we want to do is unscrew this. Now, I have a manual car. To be honest with you guys, I don't know how to pull this off with automatic car, but there's plenty of videos out there. There's plenty you guys can check out to see that. So once you have that off, you're just going to pull this up from the back. Okay, it's going to come up, it's going to slide out. Before you can get it fully out, over here you have your traction control switch button. You're just going to want to press on that connector in the back, unplug it. And then for you guys with the My Color, you're going to have two over here, one gray and one green. So you want to unplug those two plugs. 1, 2. So with that, your center console can come out. Well, really just the top portion of it, right? The whole thing is the center console. But once we have that out, what I like to do is while the car is here, I like to pull this back so it's out of the way. Not much, but out of the way. Next, the first two things, and let me just get you guys, make sure you're on. So you want to take out the two 7mm bolts here, and then on the back of this whole unit there's going to be clips, and this is why I said it's good to have a pick tool, because it's very easy to get under here. There's a little slot here, and then pull out. Okay, you pull. Yours is going to be a little harder than mine because I've already removed the clips from the back, but basically you're going to unplug it like that. You're going to depress your FCIM CAN bus connection, and then out comes the head unit. Okay, we'll put that to the side. Next, there's a couple different things going on here. This is your FDIM. So this one is what I like to take out next. 4 7mm hex. You pull it out, and then you're going to unplug it from here. Whew, that's hot. Okay, so we're going to set that down. Now, this part is the part that's hard. You're going to undo 1, 2, 3, 4 7mm bolts. Then you have to reach in the back. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plugs in the back of this that you're going to have to do kind of blind because it doesn't come out all the way. So we're going to pull this out. Oh, I just realized one of the things they always tell you to do is to make sure your air conditioner is fully off before you do something like this. So it didn't say it in there, but I've read about this multiple times, that you want to make sure the setting is at fully off, I believe. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to plug my FCIM back in here. And I'm going to turn the car on. And I'm going to turn that air conditioner. Oh, it's off already. I forgot. So that's one good thing to note, just so you guys know. The knobs, you don't recognize, you don't think about it until you actually start doing it. But the knobs here are turned all the way down. And notice it doesn't turn anymore. The same with the temperature. It doesn't turn anymore. These, on the other hand, spin, right, indefinitely. That's important when it comes to CAN bus. I'm not really going to talk about it now, but it's just something interesting to kind of keep in your mind if you ever start messing around with the system. So now we got to get the head unit out from the center. So I'm going to pull that out. And then I'm going to start unplugging from the back. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We got the AM, FM, which I think there's like a clip you have to depress to get it out. All right, let's get the Sirius out, and then let's get this AM, FM out. Yep, there's a little clip on the back. Okay, so now head unit is out. All right, so now I'm going to try to move you guys over so that you can actually see a little bit better what we're doing here and what the next steps are. All right, so now I've got you guys in the position where you can see the wires. So let's talk about what we have here. There's a couple things to ignore because these are things you guys are not going to be using. These are things from another head unit that I installed. But the primary suspects, or the primary units back here, are already here, right? We have our 3 plugs from the back of the system, and then we have our 2 plugs here, our Sirius plug and our AM FM radio plug. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start plugging in our harness from the OseMall unit. All right, so we got our packages here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of these out. Now remember, we have, let's see, we have our USBs and our backup camera. We have our microphone and we have our GPS. So we'll set those aside. And then in here is where we have our more important plugs, which contains all of our unit, our main body harness, and then remember this here is our sync unit, and then this is all of our inputs and outputs, right? So let's set this aside, and we're gonna do these one at a time. So we're gonna start with this guy here, and we're gonna take these 3 plugs. Now these are very straightforward, right? They just go right into the units you have here. So I like to start with the big one, okay? The next one, order doesn't really matter. So now we have our main body harness plugged in. So this all is going to have to stay, like I said, tucked all in the back here as we start to plug all of these wires and all of these things into the head unit. Easily tuck it away. So let's leave that there. We have this cable. So as I said before, we're going to work on our APIM, and we're going to work on our, what is it called? Our auxiliary line in. Okay, so I'm going to grab you guys off the stand. And I'm going to take you guys underneath our glove compartment. So we're going to set up we're going to take our glove box out. Now you pinch these 2 things in, and your glove box will eventually come all the way out. Now, once you have the glove box out, up here is your APIM. So I've already unplugged this wire because I've used it in another implementation of something. But basically what you need to do is this USB is going to be plugged in the back of this, which is your APIM. So you're just going to want to press down on this and pull it out. So it will be up there, you'll pull it out, and now it's exposed. The second plug you want to take out is this one with this latch. Now, I can't really show you from here because the phone's not going to be able to get back here, but if I try to pull this latch, you see the latch can't pull. It's because there's a black tab right over here. You need to push that down with one finger and then pull the latch. And you need to do that all at the same time. So see, now it pulled. And then when you pull that all the way, it pushes this APIM plug out, and then you can pull it out of the actual unit. Okay, so now that I've pulled that out, this is that little latch I was talking about. So when this gray is up here, see, now I can't pull it. You want to push that in, and then that allows you to pull the latch. So if you feel like it's getting stuck, that's exactly why you're not going to be able to pull it out. But now we can wire in our first APIM wire here. So all you have to do is look at the keyway, so it should be straightforward. There's all of our notches. All of our notches need to be on this end. So we're just going to slide that right here. Now I do find it interesting that that still has the locking mechanism. Oh, but I guess when you push the locking mechanism up, then the wire fits in. Okay, it's probably not locked. Oh, it is locked. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. All right, so that's that. Then we're going to take these wires over here. We're going to feed them through this gap, this channel. You can see the sunlight. That's because it's coming from over here. We're going to feed those through into our center console. Okay. So that could not have been more straightforward. Okay. And then our second one, remember, that's this guy. Okay. So we're going to take this plug and we're just going to plug it straight in the back here. Now, doing this with one hand is I guess not that terrible. So that's plugged in. So now what that does, where this plug goes, is that goes to the USB in here, in your center console. So now that USB will be hooked up to this. Okay. So we're going to slide that through. Now the other thing is, why did we hook up this APIM to this wire? This APIM wire goes to this line in. So when I hook up this left and right in from the APIM, that is going to basically allow me to get audio using that line in port. Now, I don't know if I want to use that or not. I mean, we'll see. It's neither here nor there, but I guess it's an option. If you decide that you don't want to go with that port, then obviously you can use a different input. You know, perhaps you want to go with, you know, something else that is the, you know, going to give you the audio quality or whatever you're looking for. So let me get you guys hooked back up on our tripod and start with setting up doing our wiring to the actual head unit, because at this point we've plugged in pretty much everything we have to in order to get this guy moving along. All right, so now that we've got that all set up, we're going to start plugging all of our plugs into the back of the head unit here. So first things first, we're going to want to take our main body harness here, and I want to plug the black one in first. Now, just so you know, I'm not pushing down on the screen on my legs. I'm just kind of holding it. You do not want to push down that way. All right, so here's our white connector, which I believe goes on the bottom here. All right, so now we're gonna have to start getting a little creative on how we're holding this head unit, getting it a little bit closer. And let me turn you guys up a little just so you could see this better. So we got this one in the bottom. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Okay, here is our, so this one is going to be a little tricky. This is our radio. I'm not going to be able to plug this in until I'm basically putting the head unit in. So I'm going to set that one aside. Okay, here's our backup camera. Once again, I'm not going to be able to plug this in until we're basically there because my backup camera wire does not extend that far, but we'll figure out how to make that work. Okay. This is very close, but okay. Next, we have this guy. This is pretty much all of our inputs and outputs. So this, I believe, is our fan power. So we want to grab this and plug it in here, which I find interesting, why it would be right on there, but okay. This over here is our plug for our CAN bus. Okay. All right, what do we have left here? We have a radio. Oh, we have our microphone. So the mic goes over here. You know what? I'm actually going to slide. This would have been better to do before, but I'm going to put our mic through the bottom here. Again, just for the sake of doing this install. So we have our mic. We're going to plug that in. Okay, we have our APIM, everything related to that. Oh, no, we don't. Here's our USB extension cable, the 3-pin. So we're going to plug that 3-pin over here. And we're going to have to just pull this power cable down and out of the way. And now I just need to find, here we go. So this one, I believe, goes here. It's probably power to the something, but all right, now that's in. I feel like I'm missing something. Okay, here's my aux in and out. Sorry, not aux in and out, just aux in. So 1, 2, and I'm missing my 2-pin. Here we go. Last but not least, my 2-pin plug, and we'll slide that in. So as I said before, you have a crazy amount of inputs and outputs and stuff here. So, you know, in case there's anything you want to use, anything you want to do, these are the ones you want to plug. I believe 1 or 2 of these, this is the same thing that Dynavan had. And I'm not going to get into it too much with them, but I don't exactly, I think one of these is meant to be the sub in the front of the car, and one of these is meant to be the sub in the back. If you have the Shaker 1000. So what I'm going to do here, just for the sake of this, is I'm going to look at these 2 wires, and they go into pins. You know what? I'm going to take a quick snapshot picture of this, because this like doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I actually want to come back to you guys with an actual reason. So at the time of recording this, I don't know the reason, but I'll put it on the screen so that it's clear to you guys when I go to actually hook this up. So at this point, what you would be doing is you would be removing all of these little clips that are on the back of your stock head unit, and you'd be putting them all on the back of here. Right? One last thing, guys. Don't be silly like me. Don't forget your GPS. In the video earlier, you would have seen that I forgot to put this on before I did the installation, so just make sure you get that in. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then, you know, you want to take that GPS antenna and you're going to want to tuck it somewhere inside here where it's not shrouded by metal, but in a good position. So I like to put it on top of my HVAC module because it's above the only thing above it is the plastic vents for the AC. So just, yeah, don't forget that. Right, so you have 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'd put them on the back, and that would allow this to clip in. Now, for this demonstration, I'm not going to clip those in. I'm just going to leave them. But ultimately, that, I believe, is every single wire that we would be using. You know what? I'm going to plug in, I don't know. I'm going to plug the white one into this subline out because I'm not sure which is which. I do wonder if you just put a splitter and hook it up to this and that controls both subs, but I'm not familiar and I didn't see anything on that in the documentation. So now it's just a matter of tucking this guy in, getting this radio antenna wire somehow plugged in as I plug it in, and then everything should be solid as far as the head unit goes. So let's work our way pushing all this stuff back. Wow, this is really going to test how much you can pull this out. Okay, so basically right about there is as much give as you have. So make sure you push all your wires in the back here. Now I did read that some people tape up those RCA cables. Again, for the sake of this, I'm not going to quite do that because I don't know how long I'm going to keep this head unit in for, but I mean, that looks like that's it. So you're going to put your screws back in and, you know, then you're going to reinstall everything and that should be it. So let's just at least put some power in the car and let's see if this is gonna work. So I definitely have AC. I feel the AC. Oh, and here we go. All right, guys. So that's pretty much it. So at some point, I guess I will activate this warranty. Interesting. We encourage you to watch our installation video after it's already installed. So I guess you could find out if you did something right or wrong. But I think that's it. Now, I'm going to leave this installed for probably about a month, and then I will compare this to, let's say, the stock or the stock radio. I may compare it to, that looks like an Audi, but I'm not that familiar with those cars. But anyway, I will compare it to some of the other options on the market and then let you guys know what I think about each of them. Well, thank you very much, guys. I hope you learned something. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.